Welcome to the Heartache Connoisseur Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Martin Carpenter, psychiatrist, medical doctor, student of the human condition, sipper of pain, lover of humanity, here to explore romantic relationships, a continuation of our discussion of codependence with your humble host, a country psychiatrist. Out here in flyover country. It's cold out there, people. We had snow and a lot of it. My patients just ran for the hills yesterday. I got done super early and I came home and I went to the shop and I worked on a bench for the beautiful, lovely, and wondrous Shelley, my wife. She just opened a yoga studio and she needs some stuff in there. So when the women and the men and the everybody that wants to do yoga come in and they take off their shoes, they got to have some place to put them. And when you take your shoes on and off, you got to have a seat. It makes it a lot easier. So we're giving them a place to have a seat and then a place to put their shoes, because you do yoga barefoot usually. And I enjoy it down there. We just have a blast. Shelley comes down and gives me a hand once in a while. And I don't know. I get out the drills and the saws and the glue. And you know what? I don't really know what I'm doing. Everything I learned from YouTube, magazines, the New Yankee Woodworker on PBS, things like this. This is how I educated myself in the world of woodworking, just because I needed something to do with my hands after hours. Well, we will press on here in our exploration of codependent relationship tendencies. And today we're going to take a look at a couple artists that have seemingly, on the surface anyway, few similarities. However, there's a couple of tunes here, one by each, that convey some similar sentiments. One is Sweet Child O' Mine, with the lyrics penned by Axl Rose, and the other is Father Figure, penned by George Michael from the album Faith. Both of these are 1987 releases. I owned them both on cassette. I listened to both of these albums a fair amount back in the day. I can remember laying on the carpet at my grandma's house listening to George Michael. You know, there I am in my little Midwestern innocence, and like, I Want Your Sex is piping through my headphones at grandma's house. Oh, those were the days. So anyway, I mean, there's these tendencies that we all have, and they're laid out beautifully in these two songs. I looked for the female, sort of the reciprocal female equivalent to these. It was difficult to find a good example, but we'll, it's not because I don't think there is one, or we shouldn't look at both sides of these kinds of issues, but these songs get at some of the very core issues surrounding the gender wars we see today. There's a lot going on out there. And listen, I am all for equality. I'm all for people engaging in respectful, mutual relationships and companionship that is satisfying and fulfilling, where both people's best selves are present and people are allowed to make mistakes and grow, and it doesn't matter your gender. Okay, so that's my ultimate goal in this. And some of this is, if you get a whiff of sexism here, please understand that's probably because whatever I'm talking about actually happens in real life. So honestly, on some level, I don't care, because in my work, it's like I'm sitting here talking to people having these relationship problems. And really the most important thing to discover and discuss is the truth, not what's politically correct or what's in accordance with the politics of the day, which is why I'm in my basement doing this. Because, this stuff's it's sort of an underground kind of way of doing this, literally. Because I'm going to talk to you about men's desire to be a father to their mate, and women's desire to be a mother to their mate. And the shenanigans and antics that ensue when we take these postures with one another. So here we go. I mean, we got Axel, right? He says, referring to the lovely Erin Everly, who was his girlfriend at the time, and who this song is about, the sweet child herself, he says, she's got a smile that it seems to me reminds me of childhood memories, where everything was as fresh as the bright blue sky. You know this one. Come on. Skipping down. Her hair reminds me of a warm, safe place where as a child I'd hide and pray for the thunder and the rain to quietly pass me by. So, Axel, as a child, when he is with this woman, it reminds him of his childhood. Okay, paging Dr. Freud. Does this sound like a child running free, playing in the grass, perhaps not wearing a pull-up, just rolling around, getting mosquito bites all over the place? Oh, there's mom. There's mom in her lawn chair. I think I'll run over to her and bury my face in her hair and feel her skin on my skin. And oh, it feels so good to be loved and mothered. And my girlfriend just makes me feel that way. And so me and my alpha tendencies, I am gonna parent her. Now, so here's why is that? I mean, on some level, men often behave like a child and let the woman parent them. That's a pretty common role that men take. But men also oftentimes take this parental alpha fatherhood protector role. And this stuff starts super young. So let's say instead of a well-adjusted mother sitting there in the lawn chair, you have a mother that gets super anxious every time little Axel, I'm sure that was not his given name. I don't even know what it was. But let's just pretend it was Axel. So little toddler Axel's out there in the yard, and he runs around, and he's getting too close to the street, and mom starts to get anxious. Maybe she yells at him or gets weird in whatever way. She's not perfect, right? Everybody's imperfect. And so gradually baby Axel takes on this tendency of consoling the mother. When he returns to her, it calms her down. So instead of her appropriately comforting him, he begins to take on the role of comforter and, in a way, protector, in a way, father. Okay? You following me? So let's skip on down to George Michael. 1987, from the album Faith. That's all I wanted. Something special, something sacred in your eyes. For just one moment, to be bold and naked at your side. Baby, I will be your father figure. Oh, baby, put your tiny hand in mine. I'd love to. I will be your preacher teacher, be your daddy. Anything you have in mind, it would make me. I will be your father figure, very happy. If I had enough of crime, please let me. I will be the one who loves you till the end of time. So, we got Axel calling his girlfriend a child. And now we got George. Deep down, what he wants here is to be bold and naked at your side. Kind of like little Axel, only now we got little George cuddling up to mom in the lawn chair. Maybe he's breastfeeding. Maybe she's naked and so is he. And it feels special, feels sacred. And again, perhaps the same dynamic plays out. And then let's also consider perhaps father, and I don't know anything about either one of these guys' upbringings. And again, we're not picking on them because these patterns are endemic. We all have some version of these patterns within us. So let's imagine the dad is absent. either literally gone from the picture or emotionally absent. So there's a masculinity vacuum in this home, in this system now. And so you got little boys getting pulled into that role prematurely. And from a very young age, they're behaving like father figures. And sometimes even going so far as to protect mother from father. In some cases, you've got an abusive father who doesn't mind smacking mom around, and you got teenage Axel, let's say, hypothetically, getting in between them. All right, so you can get a picture here. What I'm trying to do is give you an idea. Not that we all need to understand all of the ins and outs, and people disagree on some of this stuff too. This gets a little psychoanalytic. This gets a little Freudian, a little old school psychiatry. But my point is to get you thinking about the fact that we begin to take on these roles and these characters at a very young age, right? And they become ingrained patterns, and we're often not even aware that we're doing it. So how does this play out in modern day? So, we grow up and we get into a relationship, let's say, and now maybe adult Axel is in a relationship with a woman, and he is Mr. Father, Mr. Dad, Mr. Protector. Maybe he's jealous. Let's just kind of move this into not so much Axel, because I really don't know, but just sort of the typical alpha male. You've got this jealous guy, protector. Sometimes this father role then comes with an excessive amount of control. And so when this plays out pathologically, what you see are men who they go over the top in infantilizing their female partners often. And so, I've seen it all in my practice. I've seen everything from subtle attempts to control just by, I don't know, let's think of some examples. Certainly commenting about dress or appearance. Are you really going out like that? Some subtle things, men will sometimes make friends with the woman's friends and use that as a way to kind of manipulate or control. Sometimes men will withhold money, give an allowance, for example. We give allowances to children. We've got men giving women allowances. I've seen men go so far as to bug the house, spy with nanny cams, put tracking devices underneath bumpers of cars. This is this phenomenon playing out to a wildly unhealthy degree. Now, what do women do? So what they do is they take this hypermasculine alpha figure here, protector, and they feel controlled, and they don't want to feel excessively controlled like a child. And so they begin to emasculate him, make him less of a male. Metaphorically speaking, remove his testicles. Now, there are many ways that this is accomplished. And let's talk about a few. We gave some examples of the way that men can sometimes become overly controlling. Well, how do women do sort of the flip side of this and the emasculation? All of this really is about control, because the woman wants this strong man, right? Alphas are attractive. They have, oftentimes they're good looking. They have big muscles. They give the feeling of being safe and protected, and they seem strong, these alpha males, and women like this. They just do. I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't know what the politics are. I'm just telling you what women like, clearly by their own decision making, oftentimes in relationships. Now, there's of course exceptions. I'm not saying this is true of all women, but let's be honest. We have instincts, okay? And if we ever want to get along with each other, and figure out some of these problems that we have, that we see playing out in the media with all this abuse. And I mean, the sex is right now, I mean, it's like they hate each other pretty bad. And it's not doing a good thing for our households and our families. So, women, they kind of want this alpha, but you know what? Because of his alpha traits, let's say his strength and his virility, perhaps his desire for promiscuity or polyamory, one of her subconscious strategies then is to emasculate him. Take away his confidence, take away his alpha, make him want to stay at home, contribute to the rearing of the offspring. I mean, look, women have to bear the burden of carrying children, birthing them, feeding them. I mean, they're locked down, and they could use a hand, And so it is a legitimate and rational strategy to attempt to control and or manipulate your man into sticking around in the form of emasculation. This could be things such as I don't know, saying his job isn't good enough. He doesn't make enough money. Talking about how your friends' husbands or boyfriends are so much better in certain ways. Well, Bill got Jackie a new car. Did you know that? Or maybe you stop dressing up for him. Maybe you never want to look good anymore and you just wear sweats all the time. And subconsciously he interprets that as I'm not worth getting sexy for. And don't even get me started on making comments about the size of one's Johnson. I mean, if you really want to take a man and chop him off at the knees, all you have to do is make a comment about the size of his equipment. And if you want to add insult to injury, you make a point in pointing out how much of a failure he is when he fails to complete the sexual act. I mean, that's going for the jugular. And this is not uncommon. Nitpicking, nagging. Wait until we're out in front of the friends and talk about the ways that he's not a man. Maybe he doesn't know how to use a drill. See, that's why I go to the shop. I just want to show Shelley that I know how to use tools to make myself more attractive to her. Now, that's not true at all, but that's sort of funny. But that's the kind of thing where, it's like the women frequently will start to point out attributes in their men that are less than the ideal masculine. And so the human drama continues. And then you get this loop. Well, who's going to be the strongest? Who's going to be the most controlling, the most powerful? Am I going to, father you into submission, or are you going to emasculate me into submission? Or are we just going to do this back and forth until we've completely destroyed one another's ego and then move on to the next one? So what do we do with this? I mean, so if we genuinely do have these urges to be protector, provider, father, or, the flip side, mother, nurturer, can we own it? I mean, can we just allow ourselves to have those tendencies honestly and make space for each other to play those things out in a healthy way? It's okay. It's okay to care for one another. It's okay to provide and protect. It's okay to nurture and care. But we do this with communication. And we do it with, hey, am I going overboard here when I'm, spit shining your cheeks and straightening your tie and combing that rooster tail down on the back of your head with my saliva before you go to work in the morning? Is that too much? Because if it is, I'll back it off. It's fine. Or, hey, I know in the past I've been irritated when you wanted to go out and hang out with your friends, sweetie. But, I know you're just trying to have healthy relationships with people, and I support that, and I'm sorry. And, if I ever make you feel less than for wanting a life, or you feel controlled, I'm really sorry. I have those tendencies in me. I admit it, and thank you for forgiving me for that, and work with me on that. That's what we got to do. We can't deny it and pretend it isn't there. We can even make opportunities for the other one to play out those tendencies in a healthy way. This is the honest to God truth. I will let Shelly, now whether she admits it or not, she'll listen to this. She'll get a chuckle. Whether she's aware of it in the moment or not, she would admit this. She is a caregiver by nature, and I will let her. Right? Well, that's Marty. Can't you take care of yourself? Well, yes, I can, but it actually satisfies something deep inside of her when I very gently and safely allow her opportunity to exercise her caregiving needs. And I might even in that moment just take on a little bit of the pouty boy. Can you please give me a drink from the kitchen? I'm really comfortable under the covers. And she's like, oh, okay. See what I mean? Or maybe she's got something heavy and I'm like, I'll get that. I'm a strong man and I'll carry it inside for her. This is the kind of thing where we can chuckle about it. We can have a laugh. We can exaggerate it. But at the end of the day, we know that neither our masculine or our feminine traits make us better than the other. They don't give us authority to boss the other. They're just differences, and they're beautiful, and they're complementary. So if you keep as a value for your relationship at the forefront a desire to collaborate and respect each other's differences and not use those differences against each other, you will greatly improve your odds of success. And you will model something for your children that will pay dividends for them in the future. So, there you have it. Thank you, Axel. Thank you, George Michael. The late George Michael. Thank you for listening. I think this will probably wrap it up on my Codependence series. I don't know. I always reserve the right to change my mind, but I think that's about enough from the popular music. But I've enjoyed this. I think it's helpful to look at societal examples of these phenomenon because we just we become so numb to it, and it's just it's like propaganda. All these messages in our songs and on TV and in movies. It's just sort of like having that, like being in a prison camp and having that speaker that's just constantly spewing messages out into the camp, And we have to de-brainwash ourselves. We have to take a look at what's coming out of that speaker, hold it up to the light, and see if any of it is true at all. Usually there's a little truth in it, and then it just gets wildly exaggerated. And so, instead of taking any kind of a moderate stance with each other, like I've described, where we make space for each other to be who we are, we just push even harder, and we take our natural tendencies and we make them even more extreme. So I'm gonna take my natural alpha tendencies, let's say, and I'm gonna go to the gym and get swole, and I'm gonna wear tight shirts, and I'm gonna drive a car that is a metaphor for an erect penis, and I'm gonna project an attitude of I'm going to kick your ass if you even look at me cross-eyed. And then women, it's sort of the opposite. It's like, I'm going to show you just how free, strong, and independent I am and how invulnerable I am to your masculine ways. So I'm going to make myself as sexy as possible to all the other alphas and show you that you're not the only rooster in the hen house. And when you start getting too big for your britches, I'm going to cut you right down to size. right? That's what we do. We just take our defenses and turn up the volume. And in so doing, we destroy relationships and we destroy each other and we harm our children. And then this perpetuates in society, and we get things like we have now with, sexual abuse scandals and men of power and influence abusing women and women crying foul for good reason, and a never greater gender divide. And that's what happens. That's the shame of it all. So, hey, I care about you. We're doing this one person at a time, starting with ourselves. Take a look in the mirror. Hey, what can I do today? How can I be more self-aware? Are there any changes I need to make in my relationships? One person at a time makes this place better. And it's my pleasure and it's my honor to speak to you in this format. I hope that it's enjoyable. Please share it. Word of mouth, water cooler, forward it, text it, whatever. I'd appreciate you helping me grow my audience if you do like this. Consider donating to my Patreon page and making it possible for me to continue to do this to a professional degree. There's a link on my website, theheartacheconnoisseur.com, to my Patreon page. Thanks for listening, everybody. We will see you next time.